everyone. Welcome in. And I do have to say, this is episode 4. And as most of my followers know, I spend the weekend doing spiritual things. And I had my mind opened to the amount of, let's say, revolutions that have happened in society. And those revolutions, or let's say drastic changes that change society, those drastic changes have occurred multiple times throughout our history, and even throughout the history of spiritualism. And being on a spiritual journey, there are new things coming into play. For example, going live on where you only see a person's handle. That is one thing that I've grappled with. I have actually struggled with that. I've made peace with it. Yes, that's why I'm here. Because I want to impart my teachings to others. And gone are the days where there's a non-sharing of knowledge. And as I suppose as a universal payback to the universe, I had people I didn't even know teach me the online side. I'd already done the hard yards and learnt the spiritual side. And I figure if somebody can teach me the online side, going live and how going live works, etc., then I can teach what I've learned in return. And creating a balance between your spiritual journey, which is always going to be unique. So it's something that you can't have a 5-step program when every single individual is unique in their journey. It's why throughout the last 3 episodes, I've recommended joining a circle or sitting in a circle. Find the mentor that suits you best. All of our journeys are unique, individual things. And I did have somebody from, I believe it was 2 live streams ago. And yes, if you're popping in, I have tarot cards on the table because I will do live readings to demonstrate. So don't be scared to pop up and say hi. Don't be scared if you would like to know something specific to your spiritual journey. I'm quite willing to share. But that brings me back to sharing about taking your spiritual journey online. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way I've chosen to do it. And no, the person from 2 streams ago who wanted to join my circle went and had a look at my social media numbers. And they came back to me and said, no, I've changed my mind. You don't have enough social media followers. And it's like, I'm booked out. I'm dying. I'm itching to teach somebody how to do this so I can take a step back. And it's like, social media numbers can be confusing sometimes, because if I'm booked out for private readings with me are at least a 3-month wait, at least. If you're wanting weekends and after hours, it's even longer. So my social media numbers don't reflect that, because some people who approach you for their personal readings, you're delving into things that are quite private. So you're delving into their soul. If you're doing a psychic reading or a tarot reading, you're delving into their soul. And some people like to remain private. Allowing them that option by not having that social media presence that goes crazy. Allowing the person that comes to you for a reading to remain anonymous is something I highly value. And it is one of the principles of spiritualism is personal responsibility. Each individual will have their own moral compass, and sticking to your moral compass, yes, that moral compass may actually be based on your physical journey, and your spiritual journey is saying, no, be open, let the universe give to you whatever comes. And it's sort of like, no, if somebody threatens me harm, am I going to be that spiritual person, or am I going to be my physical incarnate? I can tell you now what I would be. And look, feel free to guess if I would be, oh, yes, it's just the universe giving me a challenge. Or if I would be the type of person to jump back into my physical and ignore the spiritual. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore my spiritual journey. And yes, there are live readings available. So if you are coming in for the first time, haven't seen me before, feel free to pop up and say hi. But don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You will get notified when I go live next. And I thought, in terms of balancing the physical and spiritual, I would actually utilize a tarot deck. And no, I don't have my bling on for those regulars. It's too hot here. It's in Australia. It's fairly warm. But I would utilize tarot to demonstrate physical versus spiritual. Okay, so first up, we have the Queen of Swords. And the Queen of Swords, for some people, it can represent an astrology sign. I was going to say astrological and couldn't get it out. That's just me. Yes, but spiritually, what does anybody get out of that card? I know what I get. But this is where you have to balance the physical from the spiritual. The cards are just paper. Until you work up that connection with your intuition or guides or whatever you want to label it, until you build up that connection, you're just dealing with paper. And I do believe that tarot can be quite accurate. I've had an intuitive reading done for me that has been more accurate than a spiritual reading that's been done for me. And I always approach it open-minded, not close-minded. So that's a little lesson. Open-minded, where you analyze what has... There are some things people say that automatically interest you. There are other things people say that automatically bore you. I can use an earthly example. Freakishly, I am quite natural at mathematics. Freakishly. Had a job in the area, had a job in mathematics. It bored me to tears. There was no challenge. So for me, the Queen of Swords is someone who can face a challenge. That's just one interpretation, by the way. They are bits of paper. And also, it's only a single card. So you can learn the meanings of single cards, but then you have to learn the meanings of combinations of cards. And I've got a 74 deck tarot. The 74 deck tarot will have, I've got to do my maths now, just 2 cards will produce 140. If you're just using 2 cards, it will produce 148 different interpretations. And yes, if you keep going and keep going and keep going, the mathematics on it, there could be a billion different combinations. And I'm wrong with 100. I know now I'm wrong. So yes, you can tell me I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. It's 74 times 74. So it's in the 2000s. Just with 2 cards, there can be 2,000 different combinations. Just with 2 cards. And what it is paired with can change its meaning. Like if I was to randomly, I'll just put this here, randomly choose another card, 8 of Cups. It could be that someone who is self-assured is walking away from something. That's just using the card meanings. That's not using intuition. Intuition might actually say something different. And yes, so there are many combinations. And the physical of the card, it's paper. I'm not basing my life on something that comes out in paper. I'm intrigued, I'm interested, and I'm a believer. But am I going to maneuver my life around cards? Interesting. And I'm also trying, in these videos of spiritual journeys, I am trying to create a safe space where others can attempt to read if they wish. It's not like my regular stream that I'm doing the readings, and if anybody sucks on that energy by trying to read at the same time, it disrupts that energy. This, I am fully protected, fully open to having input. And the most important part about a spiritual journey is finding that safe space where you can experiment. It's like learning to walk. Your parents or whoever raised you would have given you a safe space to learn how to walk. And I can already hear some of my usual followers saying, you didn't do the opening prayer. Yes, I did before I went live. This is a different platform, so I always do an opening prayer. And I have done it with the last episodes, but I have decided that this is an infomercial, if you like. And during the information that comes along, it's based on your input as much as it is based on my knowledge. And I would love to share the knowledge that I've built up over 35 years plus now of spiritualism and spiritual readings. And it's sharing that knowledge and being open, because some people can tell you how brilliant they are at doing something, but until you've seen them in action, or until, I don't know, one of their predictions came true, or one of their readings resonated, you're unable to fully comprehend that person's skill. And having said that, I don't mind being tested in some ways, because healthy skepticism, particularly when you're learning and evolving on a journey, healthy skepticism can protect you. I'm sure there are people out there that would like to know more about guides and angels. I do believe in them, by the way. However, in the 35 plus years, I've seen some people lose a lot of money by unsubstantiated guide readings. And that, to me, is dangerous, and I steer clear of it. However, in a circle, and when I say circle, it is a safe space to further develop your own spiritual life. In a circle, yes. How does anybody think I got to know my guides? It was within the safe space of a circle. Am I going to do a reading for a person where I'm picking up on guides? No. And I've had some people say, well, you got all of that right. Why don't you know this? In other words, they can say, well, you got all of my relatives right. You got that I was moving right. You got that my job was secure right. How come you don't know this? Or how come you don't know about my person? And it's like, A, I'm not that nosy. I could be if I wanted to be. A, I'm not that nosy. And B, sometimes the universe doesn't want you to know. The universe wants your physical incarnate soul to experience it firsthand, not have anything revealed, so that you can realize we make decisions based on the best information we have at the time. And as we're evolving, yes, we'll get gut instincts as we go along in life. Should I invest my time, effort, etc. in this? And to me, that is one of the revolutions that is going on at the moment, is that we've learned to stand up for ourselves in more ways than previously in history. However, we're not balancing that with giving. And yes, we've learned all of our rights. We know what our rights are. But we're not balancing that with responsibilities. And it's just like the yin yang. For there to be light, there has to be some dark. And when there's dark, only light can change that. So creating that balance where you're giving to a community, where you're giving to your fellow man, or giving back to the universe, creating that balance in your life makes you a healthier person. I'm not saying it's going to make everything smooth sailing, because life stinks. Yet we have, in a spiritual journey, we have to realize that we chose to incarnate at this time. And we don't know the reason. A lot of people are saying, well, why did I choose to incarnate at this time when it's so crazy? We don't know the reason. The universe will show us in time, but there's a reason we incarnated at this time. It's finding that reason. And that's the most difficult thing that's put in front of us, is finding that reason. We're all searching. We wouldn't be on a spiritual journey unless we were searching. And I do have to mention that there will be some live streams where I will be reading and chatting, answering spiritual questions. answering questions on clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and opening it up to you, and you will actually see my face, but it will be in a bush scene. Hopefully some koalas will pop by and things like that. But koalas are nocturnal animals, so unless they're trained to be awake during the day, they're generally not. And for those who believe in drop bears, please don't. It's an Aussie joke. It's an Aussie joke about drop bears. Koalas do not drop down from a tree. Yes. Unless they're dead, maybe. But that's morbid. Back to spiritual stuff. I can digress, and in a live chat, I love the digression, because living this life is the best way to give your guides that interaction to live with, to work with, to pass on to you when others are in trouble. And as I was developing myself many years ago, I had friends who were non-spiritual who would say to me, how do you cope with having all of these challenges? Because I hadn't had an easy life. Let's face it, I didn't. And I said to them, but why not me? If it has to happen to somebody, what makes me so special that it won't happen? So being prepared for it was one. And by the time friends started asking this question, I was sitting in a development circle, and I learned that most mediums have pretty hard lives, because the people that come to them in desperation are usually coming from having experienced one of those hard circumstances that the medium themselves has. And in order to pass on information and to pass on some words of comfort, as well as knowing the importance of seeking external help, mediums need to have had a tough life. It's the only way they can really, truly empathize. Yes, there are some empaths that just feel it. And I envy them, because I've had to live it and they can just feel it. So everybody has a different skill. Everybody has a different ability. And we're all coming together to empower each other. And that is something that I haven't seen a lot of. So this video to me is important, because it's about creating that balance. To be able to receive is wonderful, but giving can be equally wonderful, and sometimes more so, because we can change. We have the ability as human beings to positively change the physical life, and hence the soul's journey, by our kindness. Just through kindness. It could be a kind word. It could be a smile. It could be a hello in the grocery store. It could be you being 50 cents short at a checkout, and the person behind you giving you that 50 cents so you don't have to put anything back. Simple little things can dramatically alter A, the person's day, and B, the person's life. And to me, it's strange, because I know, being a spiritualist, that the soul remembers these things because they were acts of kindness without expectation. So they were acts of love. The only acts of love that exist are kindness without expectation. And we're in a world now where trust seems to have eroded. And the only way we can pull that trust back, pull that reliability back, is to acknowledge our responsibilities as well as our rights. It's to acknowledge our failures as well as our successes. Our failures teach us more than our successes ever will. So acknowledge your failures as well, and openly. I've failed. I've tried things and they haven't worked out. But equally, I've tried things and they've been great. So give it a go. I did put up a post. You will, if you are subscribed to my channel, you should have seen it. Remember that amateurs built the ark. This is Noah's Ark it's talking about. Or there's always a flood story in every faith going back even pre-Christianity, pre-Judaism. There's always a flood story. So amateurs built the ark. Professionals built the Titanic. So to me, that screams to me, yes, you can be successful, but boasting about it, spruiking about it, let history tell your story rather than you having to scream it. Because Titanic, as we all know, and it's why I started with the Titanic deck, by the way. Titanic, I'll just split it in half so you can see they're not bleak cards. They're actually quite vibrant cards because there was a lot of hope. The Titanic was spruiked as being, well, when I say spruiked, was said to be unsinkable. And sometimes the promotional material doesn't deliver. So the more, yes, focus on the positive. Yes, focus on the happiness, focus on the joy. However, if something does happen that's not supposed to, of course it's not supposed to. However, it's how we handle it. It's how we handle ourselves. It's how we handle others affected by it. And the enduring legacy of the Titanic is that compensation, we're a litigious society now where we will take people to court over minor things. I remember there was someone who gave evidence in the court hearing from the Titanic. I remember reading about the evidence given. They gave evidence and they asked for reimbursement of clothes lost. They were a steerage or third class, if you like. They were a steerage passenger on the Titanic. And they asked for reimbursement of their Sunday best. And back in the day, people had their regular clothes, which would get dirty, torn, whatever. And then they had their Sunday best, which they wore to church. And somebody had lost their Sunday best and was basically giving evidence in court in rags. In the day, if you were called to give evidence before a judge, you wore your Sunday best. And this person asked to be reimbursed for their Sunday best. I think it was the equivalent to about $2, maybe less. They were denied that. So our litigious society, I feel being grateful for what we have rather than what we haven't is key. And looking at this Hermit card, which is the Captain with the light, and as most people who know tarot, they know that the Hermit holds the Star. So it's not as bad as what a lot of people think. But in in this context of a deck, in this context of that particular card, to me, that screams out to me. It's why I mentioned it now. It screams out to me, somebody's protecting me. Somebody is watching out for me. And knowing, welcome in. Please, if you have a question, feel free to ask. If you would like a read, feel free to ask. But spiritual journeys can go like that. And tarot decks, I've heard myths surrounding what tarot deck you should pick and a whole number of myths. You know, nobody should touch your tarot. I don't believe in any of it, by the way. I do believe that the deck that you select for a reading will be the appropriate deck. And yes, the Hermit does offer hope. And after all, it is hope that we're seeking. So please allow your spiritual journey to have a balance between the physical and a balance between the spiritual. And on that note, I will leave that for you. But also understand that there are a crossover between the two at times. And yes, I do teach tarot. Yes, I do teach mediumship. I have a mediumship circle, and I also have a tarot learning. And no, it's not sending out printed things, because everybody's spiritual journey is individual. And for me, that would be irresponsible of me to send out the same thing for everybody's journey. The questions you may have may be different than others. So just remember that as you step forward on your physical journey, but also balance rights with responsibilities. Balance gratitude with giving. And remember the principles of the yin yang. Keep it balanced. Accept that there's going to be bumps in the road. Accept that there's going to be things you know nothing about that are going to occur. Even the best psychics in the world have that, where they know things are going to occur and then all of a sudden they don't. The universe works in really mysterious ways, and I've learned not to question. But if you do know whether I'm one of those ones that's going to stand up and stand my ground if something unusual happens, let me know. If you think I'm the type that is going to fight what the universe offers, let me know. We'll see. This is a way for you to use your intuition in this live manner. And I do feel that there are people out there who are going to ask questions. And yes, all it is subscribe. It's free for you. And I am quite willing to teach what I know. And I'm not going to send out a printout. So I thank you for your time and keep your spiritual journey balanced. Namaste.